I want to quickly talk to you about banks that cash checks without an account this year. So here are the banks I want you to pay attention to. The first such bank I want you to really sort of familiarize yourself with is KeyBank. And KeyBank allows you to actually cash checks that are drawn on the bank itself. So if you were to go to KeyBank and you're not a customer and you want to cash a check drawn on, let's say, Chase or Bank of America, you can't do that at KeyBank. Okay, it has to be drawn on a KeyBank account. In other words, a KeyBank customer has to actually write that check to you. So when you go to a KeyBank branch, you want to go talk to a rep about a service called KeyBank Check Cashing Services for non-clients. This is a category where you actually will be taken care of real fast. Okay, so what happens here is that as a non-client, you can cash certain types of checks at any of KeyBank's 1,100 branches. KeyBank is not a national bank. It is a regional bank. It is a tier two bank. But hey, listen, that really is good because they have about 20. They are present in 20 states, 20 or 22 states. Okay, and now what are the types of checks that they can cash? So for if you don't have a KeyBank deposit relationship, you can quickly and securely cash checks drawn on KeyBank accounts as long as the check is for less than $1,500. So the maximum that KeyBank will accept is $1,500. Okay. Now, are there any check cashing fees? It really depends. There is no fee for checks of $15 or less. Fees for other checks vary by state, so just call or visit KeyBank branch for more information. But again, when you go to a branch, you want to mention the KeyBank check cashing services for non-clients. And you got to have also acceptable forms of ID, by the way. So a non-established client must present a form of identification that can be successfully verified using KeyBank's verification tools in order to be able to cash and on a KeyBank check. So you want to contact your local branch for further information. So that's really great. But hey, listen, the good thing is that KeyBank has great customer service and they'll give you the cash as soon as possible. But again, it has to be less than $1,500. That's the limit they're trying to really they're willing to expose themselves to. If you're looking for banks that cash checks without an account, I want you to think about Regions. So Regions is kind of similar to KeyBank in the sense that it is not a national bank. It is a tier two or sometimes even tier three bank. In other words, there you have an element of geo restriction there. Okay, and with Regions, the good thing is you don't have to have an account with Regions to cash checks. So Regions offers check cashing services, including handwritten, out-of-state insurance, two-party tax refunds, business, government, and payroll. So you can get your cash immediately. Okay. Now it's very easy to enroll, and there are no fee surprises. So that's really good because Regions is really streamlining the whole process here. So you can see right off the bat that Regions has a more interesting process than KeyBank because KeyBank only will honor checks that are written on them, whereas Regions will offer all kinds of check cashing services, including out-of-state insurance, two-party tax refunds, you name it. Okay, so you have a full-service check cashing process, almost any check in any amount, even hard-to-cash checks. So they're not even asking you to. They're not even limiting the total amount to $1,500 as KeyBank is doing. They will cash a check of $10,000, no problem. Now, no account is required. Now, they do charge you. So the pricing it depends on the percentage of the check amount, 1% to 4% of the check amount. Okay, it can go all the way to 4%. The higher the check amount, and you also have free to load the Regions Now card when cashing a check. That's totally fine as well. Now, in terms of the fees, terms, and conditions, you have branch check cashing fee for Regions checks. It's $25 or less, excluding two-party business, no charge. $25 or greater, excluding two-party business, 1% of check amount, $5 minimum, and $20 maximum fee. Two-party business, 4% of check amount, $5 minimum. So that's for Regions checks. What about branch check cashing fee for non-Regions checks? What happens there? So the printed payroll and government checks 1.5% of check amount, $5 minimum, and other type handwritten, payroll, handwritten, person to person, two-party consumer and business, refund anticipation, insurance settlement checks, cashiers, official checks, and money orders, 4% of check amount, $5 minimum. So you can see that the risk is higher, and Regions is trying to really make sure they can mitigate the risk by actually charging a loan more when it comes to this check cashing process. If you're looking for a bank that cash checks without an account, I want you to think about PNC. So PNC is in the same league as a Key Bank in the sense that this is a tier 2 bank. This is a regional bank that's in about 20 states. So that's really good. So that's really fantastic. So you can actually cash a check at PNC real fast, okay? And PNC is kind of open to all kinds of checks. You can cash payroll checks, checks from the government, including tax returns, cashier's checks, and also settlement checks from insurance companies, okay? So that's really good. And the PNC will work with you just to make sure that you are getting the right amount all the time. Now, they might charge you certain fees depending on the geography. There are some branches in some states that have those fee policies that can go anywhere from 0.5% all the way to 5%. Okay, so you expect to pay a maximum of 5% on, and there is no numerical limit. In other words, they're not really saying maximum of $25. No, it's a percentage of the check amount. Okay, and so this is kind of cool. But the thing is that PNC, comparatively to Regions, is way more present in a larger number of states. Okay, than Regions, for instance. So that's really good. And so you are able to get your cash. You are likely to have your check cashed real fast. One thing I want to say about PNC is that before going to a branch, please give them a call. PNC is one of those banks that are very, very organized. So give them a call and tell them what it is about. Okay, if you know the branch's number, call the branch directly and explain the situation. Ask to speak to a manager and explain the situation. Tell them how much you intend to cash, and then you can have all the questions answered before you even go to a branch. If you're looking for a bank that cash checks without an account, I want you to think about Huntington Bank. So Huntington Bank is another tier 3, not a tier 2, a tier 3 bank that actually cashes checks without an account. So that's really fantastic, okay? And when you think about Huntington Bank, I want you to really think about convenience, but I want you to think about a bank that has fewer branch networks. I mean, fewer, let's say, brick and mortar branches. But hey, listen, this is still good anyway. So Huntington Bank will charge you between 0.5% all the way to 2.5% in terms of the amount, the percentage of the check. This is the fee, okay? And this is really good. And what you can do with Huntington Bank is that kind of similar to PNC. You want to give them a call first because this bank is really good, but this bank wants to make sure if you're not a customer, they want to make sure that they have time to verify your information, including the check itself, because Huntington Bank can actually cash all checks. There is no limit as to the checks that they're cashing for you. They'll cash all checks, including government checks, but also person-to-person checks, second-party or third-party checks, no problem, okay? And there is no limit as to the amount of checks that Huntington Bank is cashing for you. But what you want to do is you want to give them a call and you want to ask all questions before you go to a branch. And please, when you go to a branch, make sure you have your ID. You have a proper ID. It can be government ID. I mean, with photo. Okay, you want to have a document that can really identify who you are, because when it comes to checks, basically Huntington Bank is pretty strict, because they do not want to have a situation where they feel like they have been a victim of check fraud. Okay, so they have all kinds of controls in place to make sure they can avoid that. So give them a call, and you explain the situation. You see the amount. You tell them the amount that you are planning on cashing, and then you want to do it a few hours or even 1 or 2 days before going to the physical branch. That way, they are expecting you and your check. If you're looking for a banks that cash checks without an account, I want you to think about Northwest Bank. This is actually a lesser known bank, but they do a good job also in terms of cashing checks without an account. Now, Northwest Bank doesn't have it doesn't have as many branches as, let's say, Key Bank, Regions, PNC, or even Huntington for that matter, but they offer convenience. Convenience. And the cool thing about Northwest Bank is that there is a possibility to even arrange for the whole thing online. You don't have to go to a branch. You can just give them a call, or you can just send an email. They'll send you a secure platform where you can arrange everything. You can even send them. They would accept you sending them a copy. Like you can take a photo of the check and send it to them, so they have a chance to to analyze the picture or the check before you go to a branch. So it's that's the preferred way, the preferred way of dealing with the Northwest Bank. That way, when you go to a branch, everything is already arranged. They've already done their due diligence. They're comfortable the check is legit, and they'll just cash your check real fast. So the verification doesn't happen while you're there. It has already been done before you go there. So try to really send them, let's say, a copy, let's say a photo of the check 1 or 2 days beforehand. So that's really important. And there is no limit. There is no limit as to how much Northwest Bank will cash for you if you're not a customer. Okay. It also they have their fees. Actually, they're a little more steep though in terms of fees. They have a maximum fees here. You're looking at 6.5%. So it goes from 1% to 6.5%. But the fees will will vary based on the location and the branch where you are at. So that's why it's always good to call in advance and ask all questions before you go. That way you know how much you are paying as a percent, how much you're paying in fees as a percentage of the check amount, even before you get there. Okay, and that's really good. That's really good, especially from a flexibility point of view. So when you think about banks that cash checks without an account, it's important to understand that what you want to really look at is the general ecosystem of check cashing services, because the whole thing is that some banks, as you can see, we have thousands of banks in the country, banks and credit unions, but only 5 banks are actually willing to cash checks for you without an account, which means maybe you will have to go to check cashing services. So with check cashing services, you do have a situation to really think about. Let me explain. While the disadvantages to check cashing are clear, for some people it's a simple fact of life that they rely on those services. For those who don't have a local bank nearby, have poor credit and debt, or cannot afford the fees with a bank, check cashing may be their best option or only option for that matter. Okay, it is what it is. Therefore, if you can avoid those services, you should. But if you cannot avoid them, it is best to save up as much as you can and find a way to set up a bank account that will save you much more money down the line. Because the whole thing is, it's not just about one time thing. Okay, it's on a scalable manner. So what are those check cashing services? Let's first talk about that. So basically, check cashing services are not banks and do not provide a complete list of services that a traditional bank or a credit union offers. Instead, those services provide a limited variety of financial services, including issuing money orders, making electronic bill payments, and of course, check cashing. Their products and services are simple, consumer-based transactions, and these companies may also provide payday advances and loans. So that's really important. Now, the thing is that Financial Services of America, FISCA, which represent the industry, states that there are about 13,000 check cashing services in the states. Okay, and this is an industry that's worth more than 100 billion. So it's a lot of cash there. It's a lot of money. Okay, and that industry caters to 30 million people every year. So you're looking at 10% of the U.S. population. Okay, now how do check cashing services work? In general, check cashing services work by charging you a fee for cashing your check or providing other financial services. Typically, the cost of cashing a check will vary by state and depend on the check amount, and the fees range from 1% to 12%. If a person is cashing a $1,000 check, they'll pay anywhere from $10 to $120 in fees. Okay, so basically, you have to really understand. You have to ask yourself whether or not the whole process is worth it. So, how do you cash a check without a bank account this year? Let's talk about that. One thing what you have to do is that retailers, check cashing services, apps, and even some banks might be options you have for cashing a check without a bank account. Most check cashing services will probably charge a fee though, so that's important. So first thing you want to do is go to the check issuing bank. Like you saw a little earlier, KeyBank only accepts checks that are drawn on the institution. So go to the check issuing bank. That's the very first aspect, and it's really fast too. You can also cash a check without a bank account, and with like other types of checks. Okay, so that's really what you have to think about. But after trying where the check was issued, you can try check cashing stores. You could try major retailers. You can try prepaid debit cards, and you can sign over the check to someone you trust. Okay. So when I speak about prepaid debit card, you may be able to deposit a check onto a prepaid debit card and then use the card actually for spending, bill paying, withdrawing cash, and more. You can typically find prepaid cards at retail stores, banks, online, and even from government agencies. Okay. Be aware that there are usually card related fees. So there are fees that you have to be aware of. And when I speak about signing over the check to someone you trust, if a friend, for instance, if a friend or loved one has a bank account, you can sign the check over to them and have them cash it on your behalf. I'm speaking about somebody you trust. You have to trust the person. Otherwise, you can imagine what happened. To do so, you want to sign over. I mean, to sign over the check to someone you trust. You just need to sign the back of the check as you normally would, and then write "pay to the order of," followed by the full name below your signature. That really gives you a lot of certainty. Just make sure that you trust this person to give you your money, because the last thing you want is to actually sign over a check to someone and the person disappears after they cash the checks, and you start really like you realize that they are ghosting you, they're ghosting your calls, whatever. Okay, yes, it is what it is. So here's the epilogue. In today's conversation, I spoke to you about banks that cash checks without an account. I gave you those banks: KeyBank, Regions, PNC, Huntington Bank, and Northwest Bank. And then I also talked to you about the check cashing services. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.